Greetings, everyone, and welcome to America's Talking, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. New Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger has been in office about a week now, and proposed policy changes are coming fast and furious, with several tax increases and other policy changes on the table. A Democrat, Spanberger replaced Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, who by Virginia law was term limited to a single term. Joining me to discuss this is Virginia resident and the Center Square's White House bureau chief, Sarah Roderick-Fitch. Sarah, tell us about some of these major policy shifts.
It really did a 180 from going from Glenn Youngkin. Youngkin was really, I wouldn't say he was a MAGA necessarily. I don't know if he considered himself, but he was very close with President Trump, and sort of his policies aligned a lot with President Trump's policies. And now we went from that shift to Spanberger's, and she was sort of billed as sort of a moderate before when she was in Congress and whatnot. But it appears that she's definitely sort of taken, and with political terms, like sort of really taken a major a left turn as far as policies, adopting policies. One of her first acts as governor was to rescind the whole the agreement between ICE for ICE to work cooperating with Virginia. Law enforcement, which Governor Youngkin was very strong on. He was very, very strong on the immigration stuff. So basically saying, hey, to all the law enforcement agencies, hey, you need to be, working with ICE. Now, some localities, especially in the Northern Virginia area, Fairfax County in particular, sort of just went ahead and ignored that. But yeah, that was one of the first things. And now that puts the Commonwealth at risk, and some of the areas here of losing federal funds. I think that'll be really interesting to see with so many federal entities and jobs and everything like that here in Virginia, how that will kind of play out. But that was really actually one of her first acts, was just signing an executive order. That was a major issue. Yes, and there are several new tax increases as well that are being proposed. And now because the Democrats have complete control, they have the trifecta, they have the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. They have the General Assembly, all of that in their pocket, and they even gained a lot of seats. So there's several tax increases, which is really interesting because the Commonwealth is, when Youngkin left, he left almost $500 million in over $500 million in a surplus. So now there's talk of like, well, why are they raising taxes when there's already this huge surplus? They want to tax, delivery services, a lot of service-based stuff, which is causing a lot of issues. They're already, talking about some stuff on like leaf blowers and things of that nature. Multiple different tax increases that are being proposed. Now, whether those will actually happen or not, remains to be seen. Of course, there are some, more moderate Democrats that may be more opposed to it. There's also looking at, cutting, cracking down on firearms. We'll see if that happens. Generally, Virginia, of course, is a Commonwealth. It is known as, rising as tyranny. It's really the home of the founding fathers. There's a lot of pride and especially when it comes to sort of the Second Amendment in Virginia, that has faced a lot of pushback in years past. So it'll be interesting to see, but especially being so close, I think, to and really in President Trump's backyard, kind of literally and figuratively, especially as he's trying to crack down on this stuff. It'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. But yeah, a week into it, it has everyone is talking. It's definitely sort of changing the course for the Commonwealth.
Let me go back to the ICE changes and the cooperation between local and state law enforcement and federal immigration officials. We've seen in sanctuary cities and sanctuary states across the country these just massive, oftentimes violent protests against ICE officers. You're there in Virginia. Sarah, is there concerns that the policy shift when it comes to immigration enforcement and cooperation between local and state law enforcement and federal law enforcement, that you could start seeing some of these types of things break out in Virginia?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because one of the driving forces behind some of these protests and these a lot of agitators and everything like that is because ICE has to be. They have to actually be more aggressive. They have to do these raids, as opposed to in many of the states where there are those agreements between ICE and local law enforcement, where local law enforcement just turn over, hey, if someone has a detainer, they arrest somebody, or they have a warrant detainer or whatever, they turn them directly over to ICE. So it doesn't require ICE to be as aggressive and going in and trying to find all these people. That's where you've seen in Minneapolis and California, Chicago, New York. You see these basically where they're having to do raids. That wasn't really the case before here in Virginia because of that cooperation, and now that's going to be happening. So it'll be more visual to residents. And ICE, their border czar Tom Homan just said, "Hey, we're going to up. He's vowing to up the ICE rates in Virginia." So I assume that probably will come. I would not be surprised, especially given, again, the close proximity to DC. There already are a lot of protests and everything that happen here. I certainly see that ongoing. I'm not exactly sure where they'll be focused, but it probably likely going to be happening, in near future, especially in I think the Northern Virginia area. But as I said, some of those localities didn't really already sort of participate. They were standing against Youngkin, and as I said, being a Commonwealth, there's a little bit more autonomy in some of the counties, localities, and everything like that. But I definitely think that that's certainly a possibility. And one of the another crime thing that's also been an issue, this could also play into that, is there's proposal to lower the minimum, or basically saying, hey, well, if you've done rape or some of these crimes, the minimum sentencing stuff. So lowering that even more so. So so that's going to be a concern too as well. Playing into all of this. So it'll be an interesting time, next few years.
Sarah, thank you for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.